Ladies, let me tell you something that's going to sound strange. The women who stay on a man's mind the most are the ones who think about him the least. Yeah, you heard that right. See, most women think staying on his mind means being everywhere, texting constantly, making sure he never forgets you exist. That's not it. That's the fastest way to become background noise. Real presence isn't about being constantly available. It's about being genuinely unavailable to anything that doesn't match your energy. It's about living a life so rich, so full, so captivating that your absence creates more impact than your presence ever could. When you understand this, you stop chasing. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you genuinely have somewhere better to be. The first thing you need to understand is that value isn't something you convince someone of. It's something they feel when they're around you, and more importantly, it's something they feel when you're gone. A woman who carries value doesn't announce it. She doesn't need to. It shows up in how she moves through the world, in the choices she makes, in what she tolerates and what she walks away from. Value is quiet. It doesn't beg for recognition because it knows recognition will come. When you operate from a place of genuine value, you don't chase anyone's attention. You become selective about where you place yours. Think about it. When you're around someone who knows their worth, you feel it instantly. They're not trying to prove anything. They're not fishing for compliments or validation. They're simply present, engaged, and secure. That security is magnetic because it's rare. Most people are running around trying to convince everyone they matter. But a woman of value doesn't need to convince anyone. She shows it through her standards, through the way she invests her time, through the dignity she maintains when things don't go her way. A man can sense this. He notices that you're not desperate for his approval, that you're comfortable in silence, that you don't need constant reassurance. And that awareness plants something in his mind that he can't shake. Value also means understanding that your time and energy are finite resources. When you treat them that way, other people start to as well. You're not available at every moment. You don't drop everything when he texts. Not because you're playing games, but because you genuinely have commitments, passions, people who matter to you. When a man realizes that access to you is earned, not given freely, everything changes. He starts to pay attention. He starts to wonder what you're doing when you're not responding. He starts to notice the other parts of your life that make you light up. And that curiosity, that wondering, that's what keeps you in his thoughts. Because while other women are making themselves completely available, you're showing him that your world doesn't revolve around his attention. A woman of value also knows her boundaries, and she doesn't apologize for them. She doesn't bend herself into shapes to make someone comfortable. She knows what she deserves, what she'll accept, and what's absolutely off limits. And when those lines get crossed, she doesn't argue or explain endlessly. She simply steps. That kind of self-respect sends a message louder than any words could. It tells him that you're not afraid to be alone, that you'd rather walk away than compromise your peace. And that strength, that willingness to choose yourself, it stays with him. He might meet 100 women who say yes to everything, but he'll remember the one who said no when it mattered, because that no told him she values herself enough to walk away. And a man never forgets a woman who chose her own peace over his convenience. The truth is, value isn't about what you say. It's about what you do when no one's watching. It's about how you carry yourself when things get difficult. Do you chase or do you choose yourself? Do you beg or do you walk with dignity? Do you shrink to make him comfortable or do you stand tall in who you are? These choices create your presence in his mind. Not because you forced it, but because your actions spoke a language he couldn't ignore. Value doesn't need validation, it just needs to exist. And when you live from that place, you don't worry about staying on anyone's mind. You're too busy honoring your own. Now, let's talk about something most people completely misunderstand: warmth. Most women think being warm means being available, agreeable, always saying yes. Nah. Real warmth has nothing to do with availability. It has everything to do with authenticity. When you're genuinely warm, you're not trying to please everyone. You're not faking interest or forcing connection. You're simply present when you choose to be. And that presence, that genuine engagement, it creates a feeling that stays with people long after you leave. A warm woman doesn't need to chase anyone because her energy naturally draws people in. Here's the thing about warmth. It's not about being soft all the time. It's about being real. It's about laughing when something's funny, calling out something when it feels off, showing emotion without drowning in it. When you're authentic in your warmth, people feel safe around you. They don't feel like they're talking to a performance. They feel like they're connecting with a real human being. And that authenticity is addictive. A man remembers the woman who made him feel comfortable being himself. He remembers the one who didn't judge him when he opened up. He remembers the ease, the lightness, the way conversation flowed without effort. That's what warmth creates. Not dependency, but comfort. Not need, but desire. Warmth also means knowing when to give and when to protect your energy. You're kind, but you're not naive. You're generous with your time, but not with people who waste it. You're open to connection, but not at the expense of your boundaries. That balance between openness and protection is what makes warmth powerful. Because it shows you're emotionally intelligent enough to give without depleting yourself. A man notices when you're warm without being desperate. When you engage deeply but don't cling. When you show affection but don't lose yourself in it. That measured warmth keeps him intrigued because it's genuine but not overwhelming. Being warm also means you don't play emotional games. You don't punish with silence or manipulate with coldness. When something bothers you, you say it. When you're happy, you show it. That emotional honesty is refreshing in a world where everyone's trying to play it cool. You're not trying to be mysterious by being cold. You're naturally intriguing because you're real. And real always wins over calculated. A man might be attracted to games temporarily, but he stays for authenticity. He stays for the woman who made him feel something genuine, who laughed freely, who touched his arm without overthinking it, who showed up as herself without pretending to be someone she's not. The warmth you leave behind becomes a feeling he associates with you. When he thinks about you, he doesn't just remember what you looked like. He remembers how you made him feel, light, comfortable, seen. And those feelings are what bring people back. Not your beauty, not your accomplishments. The way you made their soul feel at ease. That's the power of authentic warmth. It creates an emotional imprint that doesn't fade. So be warm. Be genuine. Be open when it feels right, but never confuse warmth with availability. Warmth is about presence. Availability is about desperation. Learn the difference. Live the difference. And watch how your genuine warmth keeps you in his mind without you ever having to force it. Here's something nobody wants to hear, but everyone needs to understand. A full life is the most attractive thing you can have, period. When your life is rich with purpose, passion, friends, goals, and experiences, you don't have time to obsess over whether someone's thinking about you. You're too busy living. And that fullness, that complete engagement with your own existence, it radiates. People can feel when you're whole. They can sense when you're not sitting around waiting for them to complete you. And that wholeness is intoxicating because most people are half empty, looking for someone to fill the void. But when you're already full, you become the rarest thing in the world. Someone who doesn't need anyone but chooses to share their life anyway. A full life means you have things going on. Real things. Not just activities you do to look busy or make him jealous. Genuine passions that light you up from the inside. Maybe it's your career and you're building something meaningful. Maybe it's your art, your fitness, your friendships, your personal growth. Whatever it is, it's real to you. It matters to you independent of anyone else's opinion. And when a man sees that you're genuinely invested in your own life, everything shifts. He's no longer the center of your universe. He's a part of your galaxy. And that shift in dynamic changes how he sees you. You're no longer chasing his validation. You're inviting him into a life that's already amazing without him. Having a full life also means you're not always available. Not as a strategy, but as a reality. You have plans, you have commitments. You have people you care about and things you're responsible for. When he texts, sometimes you respond quickly because you're free. Sometimes you don't because you're genuinely occupied. That natural unavailability creates space for him to miss you, to wonder what you're doing, to realize that access to you isn't guaranteed just because he decided he wants it today. And that realization is powerful. It forces him to value the time he does get with you, because he knows you could be doing 100 other things, but you chose to spend that moment with him. A full life also protects you from becoming too invested too quickly. When your entire world is your relationship, every little thing feels massive. A delayed text becomes a crisis. A cancelled plan feels like rejection. But when you have a full life, these things are annoying, sure, but they're not devastating. You have other sources of joy, fulfillment, and connection. You're grounded in something bigger than just him. And that groundedness is attractive. A man doesn't want to be someone's entire world. That's too much pressure. He wants to be part of a beautiful life. A woman who's already whole. Just make space for him to add value, not fill a void. That's the kind of dynamic that lasts. The truth is, the busier you are building your own life, the less mental space you have to obsess over him. And ironically, that's exactly what keeps you on his mind. Because you're not chasing him down, you're not constantly checking in, you're living. And when you do connect, you have stories to share, energy to bring, perspective to offer. You're interesting because your life is interesting. You're engaged because you're engaged with the world. And that makes every interaction feel valuable instead of needy. He leaves conversations with you feeling energized, not drained, inspired, not obligated. And those feelings stick with him. They make him want more. Not because you withheld, but because what you gave was so rich, so full, so genuine that he naturally wants to experience it again. So build your life, invest in yourself. Chase your dreams with the same energy you use to chase men. Fill your calendar with things that matter to you. Surround yourself with people who lift you up. Create a life so good that a relationship is the cherry on top, not the entire meal. Because when you do that, you don't have to worry about staying on his mind. Your energy, your fullness, your complete engagement with your own existence, it becomes unforgettable. Not because you tried, but because you lived. And a woman who's truly living is impossible to forget. Let's talk about something that makes most people uncomfortable. Unpredictability. Now, I'm not talking about being flaky or inconsistent. I'm talking about being someone who can't be put in a box, someone who defies his expectations in the best possible way. See, most people are predictable. They react the same way every time. They follow the same patterns. They become easy to read. And once you're easy to read, you become easy to forget. But when you're genuinely unpredictable, when you surprise him with your depth, your reactions, your choices, you create a mental puzzle he can't solve. And that puzzle keeps you on his mind, because his brain literally can't figure you out. Unpredictability doesn't mean being chaotic. It means being multidimensional. One day, you're deeply philosophical. Another day, you're silly and playful. One moment, you're independent and strong. Another moment, you're soft and vulnerable. You're not one thing. You're a full human being with layers, moods, dimensions that reveal themselves slowly over time. And that complexity is fascinating. A man thinks he's figured you out, and then you show him another side of yourself. He assumes you'll react one way, and you respond with grace he didn't expect. He thinks he knows what you want, and you surprise him by choosing something completely different. That unpredictability keeps his mind engaged because there's always more to discover. Being unpredictable also means not following the script everyone else follows. When he expects you to be upset, maybe you're calm and reflective instead. When he thinks you'll chase after a cancelled plan, you simply make other plans and genuinely enjoy them. When he assumes you'll respond to his late night text, you're already asleep because you value your rest. These unexpected responses create cognitive dissonance. His brain expected one thing and got another. And that mismatch forces him to pay attention, to recalibrate, to think about you more deeply because you don't fit the pattern he's used to. You operate by your own rules. And that independence of spirit is magnetic. Unpredictability also comes from genuine spontaneity. You're not rigid or overly planned. You can shift gears when something exciting comes up. You say yes to adventures that align with your values. You're open to new experiences, new conversations, new perspectives. That flexibility makes you dynamic. Every time he's with you, he doesn't know exactly what version of you he'll get. Will you be reflective, playful, intense, lighthearted, all of the above? That variety keeps things fresh. It prevents the relationship from falling into predictable patterns where everything becomes routine. And routine is the death of intrigue. When every interaction feels a little different, a little surprising, he stays engaged, his mind stays active. and you stay present in his thoughts. Here's the key though. Unpredictability only works when it's authentic. If you're being unpredictable as a strategy, it comes across as manipulation. But when your unpredictability flows from genuine complexity, from a rich inner world, from emotional intelligence and varied interests, it's effortlessly captivating. You're not trying to keep him guessing, you're just being yourself. And yourself happens to be too complex to be summed up in a simple category. That authentic complexity is what makes you unforgettable. Because he realizes that even after months, years, there are still parts of you he hasn't fully understood, still depths he hasn't explored, still dimensions he hasn't witnessed. And that ongoing discovery process keeps his attention locked on you. Not because you're playing games, but because you're genuinely too interesting to ever become boring. Now, here's the final piece that ties everything together. Emotional independence. This is the quality that makes everything else work. When you're emotionally independent, you don't need his attention to feel worthy. You don't need his validation to feel beautiful. You don't need his presence to feel complete. You're already whole, already confident, already at peace with yourself. And that self-sufficiency is the ultimate attraction because it tells him that you're choosing to be with him, not because you need him, but because you want him. And being wanted feels completely different than being needed. Being needed feels like pressure. Being wanted feels like a gift. Emotional independence means your happiness doesn't rise and fall based on his behavior. Sure, you care. Sure, his actions affect you, but they don't determine you. When he's distant, you don't spiral. You give him space and focus on your own life. When he's inconsistent, you don't chase answers. You observe and decide if this aligns with what you want. When he disappoints you, you don't crumble. You communicate clearly and assess whether this is something you can work through or something that signals incompatibility. That emotional stability makes you someone he can count on, not someone he has to manage or reassure constantly. And that ease, that lack of drama, it makes him want to be around you more. Emotional independence also means you don't make him responsible for your emotional state. You don't blame him when you're unhappy. You don't expect him to read your mind. You don't punish him with passive aggression when he doesn't guess what you need. You take responsibility for your emotions. You communicate directly. You ask for what you want. And if you don't get it, you decide what to do with that information. That maturity is rare. Most people are emotionally dependent, looking for someone to regulate their feelings for them. But you've learned to regulate yourself. And that self-regulation is attractive because it signals emotional health. It signals that a relationship with you will be a partnership, not a rescue mission. Being emotionally independent doesn't mean you don't care or don't feel. It means you feel deeply, but don't lose yourself in those feelings. You care intensely, but don't let that care turn into obsession. You want him, but you don't need him. And that distinction is everything. When you need someone, you become clingy, anxious, controlling. When you want someone, you become generous, secure, trusting. A man can feel the difference. He knows when you're with him out of fear of being alone versus genuine desire to share your life. And when he realizes you're genuinely okay on your own, that you'd be fine without him, but you're choosing to be with him anyway, it changes everything. He stops being your security blanket and becomes your partner. He stops being your entire world and becomes a beautiful addition to a world you've already built. Emotional independence is what allows you to walk away if you need to. And paradoxically, that ability to walk away is what makes him never want you to leave, because he knows you're not trapped. You're not staying because you have no other options. You're staying because this is what you want. And being someone's choice, their genuine desire, that's what every person craves deep down. So cultivate your emotional independence. Build a relationship with yourself that's so strong that no one's absence can shatter it. Create inner peace that doesn't depend on external validation. Become so secure in who you are that you can love freely without fear. Because when you operate from that place, you don't have to strategize about staying on his mind. Your emotional strength, your independence, your self-sufficiency, it becomes the foundation of an attraction that doesn't fade. Here's what all of this comes down to. The women who stay on a man's mind aren't trying to stay there. They're not calculating their every move or playing psychological games. They're simply living as the fullest expression of themselves. They have value and they know it. They're warm but boundaried. They have rich, full lives independent of any relationship. They're unpredictable because they're complex. And they're emotionally independent because they've done the work to become whole. All of these qualities combined create something rare. A woman who doesn't need to chase because she's already caught in her own life. A woman who doesn't need to convince anyone of her worth because she's already convinced herself. A woman who doesn't need to force her way into someone's thoughts because her presence naturally creates an imprint that lasts. The truth is, you can't force someone to think about you, but you can become the kind of person who's impossible to forget. Not through manipulation, not through